Right. So when we are working on Team Center, which is a PLM tool, which is a product lifecycle management tool, especially whenever we are working on the products, etc. So wherein whatever the required tasks that are to be updated, etc., everything has to be mentioned. Along with this, we need to identify what kind of categories that we want to be selected based upon the kind of role uh, that we are playing. Because from an analyst point of view, wherein we should be focusing more on the design perspective, along with this, some documents, etc., everything has to be done. Whereas from the developer point of view, wherein we need to develop whatever the required configurations you wants to be performed when there is any new product development that is to be taken. How this has to be applied here is something that we must be good with. So here there is a category where we are selecting about the design part, wherein whatever the designs that we wants to do perform, etc. Let's say, for example, if there is any supply chain management related stuff of that kind. Okay, I'm just taking an example of supply chain management as a design that we have taken. Or if there is any other categories that we wants to be updated, etc., everything can be taken on that. At the same time, next about the documentation part, because when there is any need of document that we wants to be presented over here. Okay, so at the same time, what are the design documents that we have? So even documentation can also be presented along with the designs, etc. All that. Next one about what are the different files do we have, etc. Everything has to be taken into consideration. So these are all can be done depends on the kind of role that we are playing on under the Team Center PLM tool. So we have to select either it can be design part, it can be documents, or it can be files or etc. Everything has to be identified. Along with these identification etc., wherein we can create multiple tasks, wherein whatever the required tasks that are needed, or if you want to perform any kind of new task or something of that kind. So we can create a new task here, right? So wherein we can update the task, right? So wherein we can modify the task. We can mention about the what are the different tasks that are to be performed on the application, right? So this is a task we can take in. Task is a definition where we have taken, for example, updating the torque arm part, right? So this is a task we have taken, which we are assigned to the user because this is the user ID where we have identified. So this is the assigned one we have assigned here. And we need to consider what kind of priority item is this. So we have taken in priority item, which is a high priority item is taken. So since when the start date, we need to update this information or the kind of task that we have to be updated. Everything has to be mentioned in this. So when there is any new task is completed, for example, we want to mention any kind of comments for the existing one. Okay. Task is completed. Task in reference to the design part is concerned. Design part is completed. Okay, design part is completed. This is what generally the comment. If there is any comment we want to be posted, depends on the work that we have mentioned here. Task in reference to the design part, consider that design part is completed. So once the design part is completed, we can consider it as complete. So the design part has completed. Now, when the design part is completed, now we must be identified, right? So what should be to whom this task has to be assigned with, right? So if you want to assign any kind of new task or something, or if you want to create any kind of new objects, okay, you want to create any kind of new relatable objects or something of that kind. So we can create a new objects over here. So whatever the new task, for example, you want to create a new task. So here you can create a new task where I'm creating a task first. Then how this can be assigned can be seen later. Okay, new task of uh, code. Okay, let's say I'm just writing something. Okay, code UI development. Otherwise, okay, I have taken an example of UI development. UI development. This is the name I have taken for the definition. So what should be the high priority? UI development is always in the high priority item. We have mentioned it. Now here we have to update the due date, right? So what should be the due date, etc. So those due date has to be updated. Here need to complete the UI design uh, so that we can proceed further mm, for integration. Okay, for the integration. This is what the description was mentioned. I have mentioned it. Now, if you want to add any kind of data to the existing one, we can add the data, right? So, and all that. Now, to whom this is to be assigned, right? So, assigning this to whom? Okay, for example, assigning to someone. I'm just mentioning some XYZ. Okay, so just assigning this as an SYZ. Right? So, if there is any people, whoever is involved in, so that we can assign the participant details over here. If there is any new people who are assigned, etc. So, those participant people has to be assigned. Assignee details has to be updated here. Assignee nothing but the people to whom we are assigning the task. Depends on the people who are working on the project. So those people has to be assigned. So here task UI development is created where we have created which is a high priority item as in we have taken. Here this is a UI development is taken. Start date when the start date is at the same time when is the due date. 8th May 2026 is the start date wherein due date is 12th May 2026 like date is modified. So this is how generally the UI development we have to be taken place. So UI development is one of the tasks that is taken especially for this. Now I want to perform a new task over this, right? So I want to perform a new task uh, for database design. Okay, database design. Just mentioning. Okay, database designing can be a priority, but I considering it as a medium priority now. So as in when UI is completing, so that I'm mentioning 26th is the due date. I'm not mentioning any description as a, let me write. Any data or assignee or something of that kind. So database design was created, right? So these are the two different tasks we have created over here. Next, if you want to manage something, right? So if you want to manage any commands or if you want to share this to someone, okay, at the same time, if you want to identify who can view this. So all these we can update, right? So these are the different tasks that are taken. These are the different tasks that we have updated. Now, if you want to configure something or if you want to update any filters, okay, filter creation. For example, we want to consider high priority items into the top position. We want to consider. At the same time, we need to identify to whom we are assigning to someone called EDED. This is what generally the assigning to that we have mentioned it. And what kind of task is this, right? So type of task to do task is that. So if you selected the filters, etc., so here you can see UI development is considered as a high priority item. That's what we have selected in the beginning. That's the reason why whenever we are doing the filters configuration, because making some changes on the filters and all and configuring those filters is the high priority item. So filters creation is also required. So whenever we are working on the application, we have to update the filter creation also. So here we have updated the filters, whatever the required filters, etc. So all these filters I have updated here. So you can see the UI development has taken place where UI filters like UI development that we have made so far. So this is how we have to be updated the priorities, right? So as I priorities are updated. So the priorities are wherein I am updating on the priority wise. Or else if I want to see it as a due date wise, this is the due date wherein we can see. Or else to whom this has been assigned, that can be seen either here. At the same time, if there is any initiator or someone or the kind of type of assignment is this, because this is a task we have taken. So wherein this is how we have to update the filters, because filters and results creation, that is to be mentioned whenever we are working on the tasks, etc. So this is how generally we need to create the task, wherein once the creation of task is completed, we can go with tracking. We can track the code, etc. Or else if you want to see the existing creation, whatever the tasks that are created over there, so everything that can be seen in the application over this. So this is how whenever we are working on the product like cycle management called team center, irrespective of the kind of role that we want to be performed with, either we may be an analyst role or we are a developer role or something of that. Understanding and creation of task is something essentially required. This is what and how generally one to be understood and one should be created with.